and stab a couple of others. But the other papers are all going off on the big storm. Bigger than Hurricane Katrina. It's thundered into Jamaica. It's heading towards Cuba. And you're going to get some more updates for us, I believe, in your time, I think, aren't you?
That's right, Patrick. This is Hurricane Melissa. We're going to be talking to some weather experts, some meteorologists who are watching this incredibly closely. And as you say, as it moves from Jamaica over to Cuba, we'll be bringing you lots of live footage. And as far as we know, the eye of the storm has moved past Jamaica at the moment, particularly down one side of the coast. But people are just emerging from what's left of their houses. And the leaders of Jamaica were saying to people, this is no time to be brave. Get inside a shelter. But not everybody did. So let's see what the toll has been like on life there. And talks of animals being all over the streets, crocodiles, alligators apparently in the streets. So we will bring you as much information as we can from Jamaica this evening as well, and from that storm. And we've also got live footage. Donald Trump is on his last day of his Asian tour, so he's going to be landing in South Korea in our time, so we will be watching that as well. Brushing up on my Korean knowledge, Patrick.
Well, OK, well, yes, don't test me. The closest I've come to Korea was a restaurant around the corner from the office. So I think we're all right. But and also, you've been behind the scenes in the White House. I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, so obviously things are a little quiet here because of Donald Trump being out of town. So Ben, Leo and I have got our families here. It's half term, of course. So we went and took them behind the scenes of the White House this afternoon, actually. And so we'll bring you all the footage of that as well, as we did. I mean, Ben had these really cute little boys, and I had two very grumpy teenage girls who were not as impressed with me or the place as Ben's children. But yeah, it's worth tuning in to watch that.
I've got all that to look forward to, Bev. Yeah, a few years to go until he'll remember going to the White House. But anyway, over to you, Bev. Take it away. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Of course, very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. This is from DC, The Late Show Live. On The Late Show Live tonight, Hurricane Melissa, the strongest storm in history, is wreaking havoc on Jamaica. We're going to have live coverage in Montego Bay and also from the capital, Kingston. The Category 4 hurricane has already claimed multiple lives, and hundreds of Brits are trapped as the Jamaican government begs Donald Trump for help. The American president is, of course, currently in Tokyo, where he's been securing a rare earths deal, but he's set to jet off to South Korea for a summit. Stay tuned for the live coverage of that. Could he visit North Korea? Well, they've been testing some new hypersonic missiles. Is that sending a message to the American president? Meanwhile, he's also been visiting Trumps in Japan. So the troops there, very pleased to see him. But could he be heading for a third term? We're going to be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, of course, hours before they hit the shelves. We are live in Washington, D.C., the United States of America, just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this.
I have some breaking news about digital ID and digital governance. The British government have disclosed to us.
Huge news on digital ID. I'm going to be joined by the journalist Lewis Brackpool, who's broken that story. You do not want to miss it. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. So let's get straight into the biggest story in the world right now. In fact, Hurricane Melissa has already claimed multiple lives in the Caribbean. There are 8,000 British citizens in Jamaica, with hundreds said to be trapped out there. One tourist slammed the government's reaction to this, saying that they have been completely let down by their too late response. Let's get the view of AccuWeather senior meteorologist Matt Benz this evening. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. So, on the scale of hurricanes and storms, where does this sit? Is it the worst that we've ever seen?
This is one of the biggest that we've ever seen, and the storm, a Category 5 on the scale of hurricanes. It wasn't just the wind, it was the pressure as well. This will go down tied as the strongest hurricane with regards to wind and pressure to ever make landfall in the Atlantic Basin. That says something. That ties the 1935 hurricane that moved through the Florida Keys so long ago, back on Labor Day. So this is one of those storms that we'll be talking about for years, not just because of what it did in Jamaica, but other parts of the Caribbean.
So you've got those images behind you there, Matt, which takes a much more sophisticated meteorological assessment and understanding of them. But if you could just talk us through a little bit of what we're looking at here, that would be great.
Yeah, so what we saw was a landfall earlier today of a Category 5 hurricane on the southwest portion of Jamaica. It moved over the island very slowly, losing wind intensity as it moved northward, now down to a Category 3 hurricane as it reemerges out across the northern part of Jamaica, and it is expected to move northward here over the next couple of hours. That's the latest satellite image, moving towards the southeastern portions of Cuba. Now, this warm water is going to refuel the storm as it moves northward. So you could see some intensification back into a Category 4 hurricane, expecting to make landfall in southeastern Cuba in about 7 hours or so. And as we track this storm as it moves northward, this will be coming in during the night. Very dangerous time, of course, not only the wind, but the storm surge. That's the water that is funneled up into the southern portions of Cuba that is going to cause sea level rises, causing tremendous amounts of rainfall. As it moves over Cuba, it will lose wind intensity once again. Good news for folks in the Bahamas, but still a dangerous Category 2 hurricane. And then this will take off towards the northeast as a trough moves across the eastern U.S., picking it up into the North Atlantic, not posing any threat to the U.S. mainland, but it could kick up the surf over the next few days, especially through the end of the week for the eastern coast of the United States. And as we look at this storm and where it's headed, of course, this is a big picture here all the way up into the North Atlantic. Still some concern into the maritime provinces of Canada, dealing with some wind, some rain from the storm as we head towards the end of the week and towards the end of the weekend.
How accurately, Matt, can you predict the path of these sorts of storms? And if you can accurately predict them, is this as you expected? Were Cuba already on storm watch?
Well, once we start to see the bigger mechanisms in the atmosphere starting to steer these storms, you get a lot better idea for where they're headed. So the confidence is high in this track right here. The problem leading up to the storm, at least approaching Jamaica, it was moving incredibly slow. You could walk faster than the storm was actually moving. And when you don't have those steering mechanisms in the atmosphere, it makes it very hard to forecast where it's going. So our forecast confidence has grown in where the storm is going, especially from where we are when the storm first developed here late last week.
And the rainfall is going to be, or has been, or is currently significant in Jamaica. I mean, listen, we're Brits, we're no strangers to rainfall, but this apparently is going to knock all records in terms of the amount, isn't it, that's fallen?
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of rain falling over a very short period. The other thing you have to keep in mind with any of these islands down here is you have terrain. You have these very tall mountains. So this moisture is slamming into these mountains, rising up. The air is being wrung out, and you are dropping all the moisture at once. So you're looking at as much as a half a meter to a meter of rain in to the meter and eastern portions of Jamaica into western Haiti. It's still dealing with up to a half a meter rain in southeastern Cuba. So an incredible amount of water coming from this storm. The issue that we saw in Jamaica was just a slow movement. It moved very slowly to the south and then edging to the north. So it hasn't been just the last day that Jamaica's been dealing with rain. Days they've been seeing rainfall from the storm.
So when you say a meter of rain, Matt, over what period of time?
That's going to be over the course of several days. Now, a good chunk of that rain will have fallen in the last 12 to 24 hours, but we're tracking rainfall back all the way back to this past weekend and even late last week. So it's over a longer period of time, but a lot of this did fall over a very short period of time for places like Jamaica.
And as a meteorologist, of course, you will be concerned for people concerned for the wildlife on the island, for what this means for all of the communities there. But as a meteorologist, how sort of fascinating is it for you to see an event like this and to put it in some sort of context in terms of the weather that we now see across the world? Is it more extreme?
Well, this is one of these events, and you have to think about the impacts that it had on the people. Of course, you mentioned the wildlife in Jamaica and anywhere across the Caribbean. But as a meteorologist looking at this storm, truly awesome is what I can say. When you've seen some of the Hurricane Hunter aircraft punching through that eye wall, and you're just left with the stadium effect of clouds around you. Shows you the power of the storm. And given how warm the seawater temperatures were and just the ripe ingredients that were all there, truly an amazing storm that developed. Unfortunately, of course, causing a lot of damage and a lot of misery for a lot of folks out there for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, thank you so much. AccuWeather senior meteorologist Matt Benz there. I want to bring in my panel actually this evening. Thank you, Matt. Stephen Kent and Mally Smith are with me. Now, as Americans, are you a little nonplussed about these extreme weather events, Stephen?
Well, I'm not nonplussed about them at all. My wife is an atmospheric scientist and studies meteorology herself, so she is on track to work with the great people of AccuWeather maybe one day. But no, this weather is significant. She's been looking at it every single day for hours on end. It's going to be catastrophic. We haven't seen anything like this in the whole world since at least 1935. I just hope that people are able to get out of the way, but it seems that a lot of Jamaicans are refusing to leave their homes, which this happens all the time. You can't make people do it.
There are pictures, of course, as there are these days, Mally, when you see on social media. Sometimes you have to go to Twitter and to Instagram to see some of the most remarkable self-shot footage from members of the public. And the leaders in the country were saying to people, this is no time to be brave, because you can so easily underestimate the impact. There were teenagers on the sides of the beach with their phones out, waiting for this to come in, and just so difficult with to know what to do as a person there. Yeah,
and I think too these events can seem surreal, so it's hard to imagine that you might be a victim of a hurricane and you want to you think you could get a cool photo, but you shouldn't take those risks. And also to jump off what Stephen was saying, Stephen and I are from North Carolina, and we recently had a Hurricane Helene Western North Carolina, and we've seen how tough it's been for them to rebuild, and we're the effort. I can only imagine what some other countries might have to deal with.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, when things like this happen, you heard in the segment opener, people look to the United States for help, and so I hope we're able to, split the difference and do right by people who are in need here. We're
looking at the live pictures here on the screens at the moment, if you're listening on the radio. These aren't live, actually. These were from a little earlier today. But you've got the risk, and there you go. There's the locals, the teenagers playing football in the street. I mean, I can't imagine being the parents and wanting, the stress of saying to them, come inside, this is going to be dangerous. Because the risks, of course, are posed by falling trees, falling buildings, cars literally being lifted off the road and thrown across the streets. You can see the intensity, 185 miles an hour wind.
And I also think, too, one thing that's tough to communicate is the winds can die down, and if it's still raining and the infrastructure isn't built for the amount of rain that the area is receiving, it can become deadly pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to tell you what the Foreign Office have said on this issue. They've said that we understand how worrying developments in Jamaica are for British nationals and their families. Our travel advice includes information about hurricane season, which runs from June to November. They say last Thursday we updated our travel advice for Jamaica to include a warning about Tropical Storm Melissa, and that was expected to intensify over the coming days. Well, they weren't wrong about that. They go on to say the safety and security of British nationals is our top priority, and that is why we are urging any British nationals in Jamaica to follow the guidance of the local authorities and register their presence with us to receive updates. When you do grow up in an area like you both did, what precautions do you take at home anyway? In the eventuality of extreme weather conditions?
I mean, I just always remember, I have these childhood memories of hurricane season in North Carolina, and it was just the typical stuff of boarding up the windows and going to your basement. But, again, that was before cable news was super prominent when I was growing up and we were going through those things. So by and large, it's get out of Dodge. You've got to leave town, and you've got to make sure you've got the insurance package that you need to do that. But the big problem that we're running into on the coast, particularly in California and in different parts of North Carolina, is an insurance agency crush, where a lot of different insurance outlets are not looking to insure people who are going to be in the path of these storms and, erosion on the coasts and, rising waters.
Yeah.
That's not a thing that people want to insure. And then you got people who have nowhere to go and nothing to do with the wreckage.
Well, and I think the thing that's really sad is because, there's some people who say, I can just tough out the storm, I'm going to stay here, but they're able-bodied and they have the money to get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
I do feel very sorry for the folks who maybe they're hearing the warnings, hey, you need to leave the community, you need to go further in the state or further into the country. But if either economically they might not have the ability, or if they're older or have a disability, that's incredibly tough.
Yeah, I mean, Hurricane Katrina, most of the deaths were the elderly and the disabled, people who, maybe they would have left if they were able, but they just couldn't. And they didn't. And a lot of people just don't want to leave their homes. They feel very emotionally attached to being there and seeing what happens. And that might be hubris. That might be people thinking that the worst isn't going to happen to them. Sometimes it does.
And actually, we saw the pictures of the teenagers there playing in the street, but you can completely imagine it would be the older generation who would just knuckle down and say, I'm going to stay here, and what will be, a sort of fatalistic attitude to it. We don't know whether the final numbers at the moment of a particular mortality of this event, but we will bring you up to speed. I think initial thoughts are it hasn't been as catastrophic as was predicted in terms of loss of life, but that could be partly because the government have provided these shelters and encouraged people to get into them. And actually there is the credit to the news channels, because you wouldn't necessarily know about it in the same way as you would in 2025. Keep your thoughts coming to me this evening, gbnews.com/your say. We will bring you the latest as we know it from Jamaica. But still to come this evening on The Late Show Live, we're going to bring you all the behind-the-scenes secrets. What do the journalists get to see at the White House, including this footage from some very young budding reporters in the press room?
We're at the White House, aren't we? What's it called? Leo brothers, you two are banned from the White House. You are fake news.
You can tell whose son that is, can't you? That's a little Ben Leo right there. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Lots to get through this evening. We're going to be watching Trump as he takes off from Japan. He's had a very busy time in Asia this week, and he's going to be landing in South Korea in our time, which means it's a very short flight, Stephen Malley. Yep. A very short flight. He must be on the plane for about 25 minutes, I suppose. Anyway, and they don't mess around. He doesn't have to queue for passport, so it's a quick journey. He's going to be on. We're going to be watching him take off. We're going to watch him land. So you don't want to miss that. And we're also going to be talking to Louise Brackpool. He's the investigative journalist who's been digging into the digital ID issue via the Government Freedom of Information Acts. You do not want to miss it. I know a lot of our GB News audience are very concerned about digital ID and the increase of the surveillance state. But first of all, it's half term, so Ben Leo and I have got our families here in Washington, D.C. this week. And so with President Trump away, we thought we'd give you a little behind-the-scenes look at the White House in Washington, D.C., where the magic happens. With President Trump out of town in Asia, it's a bit quieter here in Washington, D.C. for the press today, and it's certainly quieter behind the walls of the White House. So Ben Leo and I thought we'd take the opportunity to show you at home, our GB News community, behind here, but take our own real families with us. So the White House is, of course, one of the most recognisable and iconic buildings in the world. It sits on 18 acres of land. It's got 132 rooms, 16 family and guest rooms, 3 kitchens, 35 bathrooms, and the floor area is about 55,000 square feet. Obviously, Trump is amending that at the moment with his ballroom plans. But this is the space that the press get to see. The global media from all around the world get to come in through the main entrance and down the driveway here and into the press briefing room there, the famous space that we see Caroline Leavitt stand up there and other spokespeople before her, of course, and represent the beliefs, the feelings, the needs of the president in that particular moment. And along here we've got the green canopies, and these house the individual stations from all around the world. So CNN, NBC, Fox News, all the big American channels. Behind us here, this is the famous West Wing. And that is where a lot of the business happens, the political business. That is the doorway outside which you see President Trump greet world leaders when they arrive. So that's the entrance to the residential section of the White House, of course, where the black cars are parked there, the blacked out windows. On the other side of that is the East Wing, where this controversial dining room is being built, knocking down a section to build that. And you never know who you're going to bump into here at the White House. Late as usual, here he is. Here's Ben Leo with his kids and his wife and their Halloween outfits.
Right, Zach, we're at the White House, aren't we? What's it called? I heard there's some special guests inside. Should we go and have a look? I wonder who's inside. Come on then. So this was where Daddy and Bev work. Oh my goodness me, who is it, Zach? Is it a werewolf? Hello, Mr. Werewolf. Welcome to the White House press briefing room. What do you think?
Nothing.
Nothing. Have you scared all the reporters off? They're all fake news, aren't they? So President Trump got you in to scare them off. That's his wife, here, Rianne. You all right?
Hello, yeah.
Having a good time?
I am.
What do you make of it, the White House?
Not
as expected?
Not what I expected. I expected it to be more out in countryside.
Hello, Bev Scales. What's your names? Where are you from?
Trixie.
Trixie.
Kiki.
Trixie and Kiki. White House press briefing room, your debut. What do you make of it?
Very small. Yeah, it's quite messy.
And have you been up to the lectern yet?
No. The what?
The lectern.
Oh, no, not yet.
You don't fancy yourself as the next Caroline Leavitt?
No, unfortunately not.
Tell us, are you proud of your mum?
Yeah. Very proud.
This is the famous press briefing room where we see Caroline Leavitt, Trump's spokesperson, just command the room. It's normally packed in here. There are certain organisations, news channels, which will have designated seats, and the rest of us just squash all around the sides and hope to get a question in. But as you can see, it's a little sort of tired, and this is the thing, when Donald Trump gets criticised for spending money on the ballroom, it's because a lot of the White House actually could do with a bit of a makeover. You know, it could do with a lick of paint. It's got the slightly old travertine tiles on the walls, a slightly dirty blue carpet on the floor, but it does the job really well. I'll just see if I feel at home up here. It's very quiet in here today because, of course, President Trump is off on his tour of Asia, so everything's a lot more relaxed today. What do you think, girls? Do I look good up here? In London, we have no facilities for the press at Downing Street. What you see, of course, is journalists, photographers, camera people, reporters, presenters, all outside shivering in the cold. And here in the White House, the press are invited in. They have workspaces. They have coffee, tea, microwaves, and a small little area where they can come and just kind of have something to eat, just chill out, maybe write some material for a website for the news outlet, get a snack, and then go about the day. So, darling, what do you think of the White House?
Very cool, but where's the big man? I thought we were coming to see Donald Trump. Okay, well, at least we got the Blue Angels flying over. That was pretty cool. And it's a little bit smaller than I thought. There's obviously a lot that you don't see on the television, and it's really cool to see all the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Okay, next question, please. Jude Leo. Zach Leo, please, question. Leo brothers, you two are banned from the White House. You are fake news.
Oh, it was such a lovely day. We hope you enjoyed that at home as much as we did. You can see, I told you my teenage girls were not remotely impressed by me. Are you proud of mummy? Yeah, a bit. Have you been up there? No. Anyway, you've got teenage girls, Stephen. You know what they're like. It takes a lot to impress them, doesn't it?
There are good days and bad days, and they do not care about your achievements. Not one.
You'll
bit.
never be cool.
No.
No, I will never, ever be cool. But it is interesting to us as the press here in America. In fact, I think we're going to bring in Paul Cox, are we, down the line? Let's bring in Paul from Paddington, from GB News down there in London. Paul, good to see you, my love. Thank you so much for joining us. It's interesting to see that, isn't it? Because the relationship between the administration, the government here, every government, every American government, not just this one, with the media is very different to in the UK, Paul, because I can't imagine a circumstance under which Keir Starmer would open a wing of 10 Downing Street so that we could go in there and have coffee and, you know, write our copy in the nice warm room and be consulted and be able to talk to the representatives. It's a very different reciprocal sort of symbiosis.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, it's really good to see that GB News have made your families earn their flight to the United States by making them work all day today. That seems a little unfair, but well done to your daughters. I've got a teenage daughter as well, and she couldn't care less about anything I've ever achieved. So yeah. I'm with Steve on this and you, Bev. But yeah, the relationship on this side of the pond versus the relationship with the press on the side of the pond you're now working on, Bev, is incredibly different. We're full of a very outdated tradition here, and I'm a traditionalist, but the way we treat our journalists here is very different, and I think this is very different the way Trump is treating them as well. It feels that in this term he's very much opened up that press room to all sorts of types of press, less legacy press, more new press, more online press, particularly GB News getting involved as well, Bev.
Yeah, absolutely. Mally, what do you make of it when you see that kind of behind the scenes and how welcome the press are here? It's important.
Yeah, I mean, it must be very different from you guys because you guys barely have any free speech rights from what I've learned with my time on GB News. But no, and you know, Paul, I think you really hit on something, which is President Trump. I have a lot of criticisms of him on policy, but I do think one thing he gets right is being incredibly accessible to media organizations and doing interviews and essentially keeping himself in the conversation. I'm highly critical of the fact that I think Democrats have gotten too cute in their ability to make arguments, and they think we have to have it very structured, we can only talk to these outlets, and we have to make this exact point. That is highly scripted, and it's messier the way Trump does it, but I do think there is a benefit to what he is creating.
Maui, I'll take the cranky perspective here. Inside me, there are two wolves. There's the one that goes, man, we've got such an amazing country here, and the press has a warm relationship with the White House, and oh, how free we are. And then there's also the other side of me that's like, we need to turn the fire hoses on these people and get them out of the greatest house in the world. Why are the hyenas inside the building? It's definitely like a choice that we make here to have this symbiotic relationship between media and power, and it works in the American system, but it also sort of creates this information ecosystem that is just so drenched in rumors and rumor mills out of the White House, and it's hard.
What do you mean? Just explain what you mean by that. Are you calling me and my family hyenas?
You're the good hyenas.
Oh,
You're the good hyenas. That's the trouble. So that's the trouble with conservative media, right? We hate the media, but we're in the media. So, what are you going to say? The mainstream media runs a racket in the White House where they've tried to keep opposition out. And so that's kind of one of the things that you were mentioning about legacy media. They basically run a cartel, this press association that they create where they don't allow anybody else into their little club. They don't let you take seats up in the front. They don't let you have access to the administration officials. And Trump and his team have gone, you don't make the rules around here. You are welcome here because we gave you permission to come in.
Yeah.
We're going to open the door to more people.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Paul, we will be back with you in just a little while as well. Let me know your thoughts this evening, gbnews.com/your say. I'd love to hear from you tonight. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live, though, the Department of Homeland Security are at it again. They've recruited ICE officers with memes of the video game Halo this time. We will explain to you what that means. Do you play Halo, boys? I can see the thumbs are going. I have no idea what it is. Also tonight, this. New pictures are coming out of Jamaica. We're going to bring you the latest on Hurricane Melissa, the Category 5 storm that hit just a couple of hours ago. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. What you are watching there or listening to on the radio was the arrest, the moment that a 22-year-old Afghan national was stopped in his tracks after that triple stabbing in Uxbridge in West London this afternoon. It's left a 49-year-old man dead. Let's have a quick look at the front pages for tomorrow. Let's go with the Independent first. This is Rachel Reeves. Must raise income tax, apparently, to fill a new gap in the budget. This is economists are warning the Chancellor will cause unnecessary damage if she chooses smaller tax increases to balance the books. We're going to go to see Donald any minute. We're going to bring you any minute now. We're going to bring you Donald Trump boarding Air Force One on his way to South Korea. But let's stay with these front pages for now. The front page of the Metro. Terror as 185 miles an hour hurricane hits pure fury. They're calling it. Interesting, I think, that the papers are leading on the Jamaica hurricane story instead of the stabbing in Uxbridge this afternoon. Let's see how the news agenda evolves as the day goes on, of course, over in the UK. The I paper leading on the storm of the century, 185 mile an hour hurricane, bigger than Katrina. Telegraph are leading with councils being told to end 4-day weeks. Good old Daily Telegraph sticking with issues which the British people feel quite strongly about. That's, of course, about getting people in the civil service to work just that little bit harder. The Guardian. They are also leading on the budget. Reeves vows to defy the gloom after £20 billion budget blow, and of course a picture of Prunella Scales, who has died at the age of 93, a phenomenal comic actress. Of course, we're going to be talking about her in a little while. Front page of the Washington Post, they're also leading on Hurricane Melissa crossing Jamaica. After the historic landfall, they're calling it, the storm is tied for the strongest recorded landfall in the Atlantic Basin by both pressure and wind speed. And the New York Post, they're very much focusing on this mayoral race. We're going to go to Donald Trump now. He's boarding Air Force One. As far as we know, he's in Japan and he's about to board the aeroplane en route to South Korea. Mally and Stephen are still with me in the studio. He's looking quite triumphant there, Mally, and so he should. I think this has been another successful tour.
I don't know if he looks that triumphant. I mean, he looks okay. He looks fine.
He did
healthy, strong.
Well, he did his little fist pump. He did his little, you know, his little...
he's just walking. I don't know why we're lowering the standard here. He's just walking.
He's walking with confidence, strength, fortitude, not shuffling very slowly like a certain former president.
He's also tripped and fallen up those stairs before, too.
I do love how Donald Trump has talked on the record about how he tries to be very careful with every step that he takes because, you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here he is boarding Air Force One. He gets in the front of the plane. I think speaking here as probably the only panellist who's been on Air Force One. Never mentioned that before. He gets in the front of the plane, glaze in, as the kids would say, and then
She's
the journalists,
been with her teens.
the journalists and the administrative staff that travel with Donald Trump. A lot of them get on the back of the plane as well, and of course it's full of Secret Service as well. There's a huge amount of security goes on there. Right, we will be following that journey. He's going to be getting off in about half an hour, we understand. Let's speak to Paul Cox, GB News contributor down in London, and keep my panel here with me, of course, as well. Let's look at those front pages, Paul, shall we? How do you feel about the fact that so many of them have run with the hurricane story as opposed to the stabbing this afternoon in Uxbridge? And we have to be careful with this. A man is in custody and therefore different rules apply in terms of what we can and can't talk about. But this issue of asylum seekers being in this country and committing crime is not confined to this one incident. And I think the British public, forgive me, waking up tomorrow morning will feel more strongly about that than they do about a hurricane in Jamaica, regardless of how bad that could be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to downplay what's going on in Jamaica. It's a serious human story, and as a result, it is newspaper worthy, and it's certainly front page worthy. However, what we've got here is a narrative control. We quite clearly, it's only really reported on the front of the Mail. There is a smaller story on the front of the Daily Telegraph. Both could be considered, in fact, are right-leaning newspaper outlets. So the reason they're happy to run it is because it fits their narrative. I had this debate earlier on with one of our lefty contributors on GB News, and I say that we should unpoliticise this. This should not be politics. This is not about whether you support conservative politics or socialist politics. This is about protecting British people. This guy, hypothetically, we know this guy's innocent. As far as we're aware at the moment, we don't know who's guilty of this. Hypothetically, though, and in reality, we know that historically we have seen a number of asylum seekers, illegal immigrants, committing criminal offences, very serious criminal offences against children, against women, against the public at large. And this is what happened today. If it happens to be true that this was another illegal immigrant or an asylum seeker, then we know that this is happening far too regularly. If this person wasn't in the country, this wouldn't happen. We know that. We absolutely know that, and we should not politicise this at all. It should be a front page story on all of our front pages, I think, Bev.
Yeah, I think I agree with you to some extent. Can I bring in my panel as well, Steve and Mally?
Yeah.
You have similar issues here, but it feels incredibly diluted somehow and distilled in the UK in a way. I know that Donald Trump has been talking here a lot about, and we mentioned the ICE agents, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, men and women, and the work that they're doing. But how serious is the issue of illegals, particularly aliens, as you call them here in America, committing crime and being viewed differently to maybe people who were born here?
Well,
Stephen,
it's certainly an issue. It's a thing that happens. I don't have any statistics right in front of me, but you know, one of the issues that I think most people in America feel is preventable crimes. There are always going to be crimes committed by native-born Americans. In fact, statistically, they are more likely to commit crimes than immigrants in the country. But the fact of the matter is that people who are here illegally were never supposed to be here at all. Therefore, there is an added layer of injustice to the crimes that they commit. And people understand that, and they feel that very strongly. To the point of the weather, you know, one of the things that I wrestle with as a news commentator, but also as a person trying to stay sane in the modern world, is I have never really felt that storms that are not currently in my country are actually worth covering. I actually think that it is way more important to know when there's violence going on in your community, when there are stabbings. I've just never been of the mind that natural events happening on the other side of the world are like a top page story, even if it is a remarkable level of wind, and the human devastation's gonna be real.
It will be. You're absolutely right. And I think what's interesting, though, I think traditionally weather's kind of sells newspapers.
Sure.
Like a big weather story. I don't know what that is about, Mally. Do you have a theory, a philosophy on why people buy newspapers if it has a weather story on it? What does it tap into in us?
I think both of those stories, the weather story and then the crime one, they are both compelling news, right? As they say, if it bleeds, it leads. And then also weather is a captivating story as well. I'm not someone who is like watching the Weather Channel and find it fascinating. Obviously, if a storm is coming to the community I live in, someone please tell me so I can leave. But it's not something I'm watching the Weather Channel and like fascinated by. But Bev, you're completely right. It sells newspapers. You know, Paul, as you were saying, there was like all these newspapers were leading with it. I don't know if it's necessarily a political take as much as, I mean, you know the news in the UK more than I do. If it's a political take as much as just, oh, weather, it's a big weather storm, we got to put it in the front page.
Well, yeah. When it all plays into the narrative, doesn't it, Paul, that man-made climate change?
You've just absolutely nailed it there, Bev. I think, Mally, and good to see you both, Steve and Mally. Really enjoy working with you both on a Tuesday. I look forward to being invited out to see the White House as well. Perhaps I need to be a family member, but one day I will come and see you. Anyway.
Was that a proposal, Paul? Was that a proposal? If
yes,
you
why
want
not,
to ask, just say. We don't have to do it like
why
that.
not?
We'll take you out to dinner. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Any one of you can accept the proposal, by the way. That is not unique to any one of you. It's a proposal to you all. I would say this is political on the basis that actually the weather story is primarily, and I'm being cynical here, but it's primarily on the front of left-leaning papers. The Eye, the Metro, the Independent, the Guardian, okay? And one of the reasons is because of climate alarmism. We've lost our way with climate change. People are disengaged and disenfranchised by it now because we've been told so many horror stories that haven't come true that they need to keep producing these stories. So hurricanes mean climate alarmism. That's exactly what's going on there.
Yeah. And purely coincidentally, and I'm sure it's a coincidence, actually, Jamaica was always lined up as one of the 2030 sustainability goals, digital countries. Kingston was going to be one of the most tied into their digital cage cities. So I'm sure that is just a coincidence, but it does mean they can push that through more quickly. So two things to worry about for the sake of the Jamaican people there. Paul, we'll be back with you in just a little while, but still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. The British government is not only developing its hugely unpopular digital infrastructure within Britain, it has also spent around £3.8 million of taxpayer money funding digital ID systems in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Georgia. We'll tell you all about it from the man who's discovered this news in just a moment. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. honest.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. There's been some new developments on the government's controversial digital ID scheme. It's been revealed. In fact, I'm not going to tell you this. I'm going to talk to the man himself who has discovered this. But today, the Prime Minister's Chief Secretary, Darren Jones, told a cabinet meeting that he will shut down the legacy state and build a new one using digital ID. What does he mean here? Have a look.
For me, if we get this digital ID system working, and the public being with us, that will be the bedrock of the modern state.
So let's get the view of investigative journalist Lewis Brackpool, who I'm delighted to say joins me now. Lewis, you are the go-to guy when it comes to these sorts of issues, because you are determined, are you not, to get to the to get to the information of what's happening via Official Freedom of Information Act. What have you now found, Lewis?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me on, Bev. It's really great to see you. It's a shame I don't have any good news to share with you, but one day, very soon, hopefully. So we at Restore Britain have obtained official Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office documents through the Freedom of Information Act. And this document confirms that the UK government is funding and designing digital governance and digital ID infrastructure overseas for foreign nations, not just for Britain. Now, these programs are run through the United Nations Development Programme and are funded by the UK's Good Governance Fund. And it is projected that this ongoing funding for these digital governance projects by the UK government is around £3.8 million between 2021 and 2025. And there are two main countries involved, and that's Bosnia and Herzegovina and Georgia. Now, for Bosnia, there is a program named Digital Transformation in the Public Sector Project, and the total funding from the UK is approximately around 2.7 million, and which includes the creation of national e-service portals and frameworks, along with the development of digital ID and e-payment modules, a formal memorandum of understanding between the British Embassy and the United Nations, as well as a public service design toolkit based on the UK government digital service method. So effectively, the UK's own digital government model is being exported and embedded inside another country's citizen data system. And for Georgia, there is a program name called Public Administration Reform, which is around a total funding from the UK around £1 million. And the focus areas include trust services alignments, mobile ID feasibility studies, cybersecurity for citizen data systems. And the broader thing of this is none of us were ever asked for this. This has been a project that's been pushed along for a long time. The Tony Blair Institute has been really pushing after the mid-2000s when Tony Blair's push for his national ID cards didn't go through in the Houses of Parliament. So it's almost like vengeance now. But
Lewis, I'm so sorry, but I would urge people to go and find Lewis Brackpool on X. Look at the work that he's doing. It is remarkable. And I will talk to you again very soon, my friend. Thank you so much. We've got to take a very quick break now. We're going to bring you the latest on the hurricane, of course, in Jamaica. Don't go anywhere.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We will see some spells of rain today, particularly across parts of the southeast. A mix of sunshine and showers elsewhere. And where we see persistent outbreaks of rain, it is going to be feeling on the chilly side. So plenty of rain across parts of the south and southeast. This could be heavy at times for Sussex and Kent. Also a fair few showers. These possibly merging into longer spells of rain at times across the northwest. This too could be heavy, possibly bringing some hail and thunder, though this should be mostly isolated. Northern areas of Wales, northern and central parts of England, it should be mostly dry and bright by the afternoon. We may even see some sunshine, but it is going to be feeling chilly. Temperatures just below average in some areas, and where we see the cloud and rain linger on, particularly across southeastern areas, that's where it's going to feel chilly still. But across central areas, there could be some clear skies, so temperatures dipping away as soon as the sun goes down. Still plenty of showers across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, through into the Scottish borders as well. These could still be heavy, and also northern areas of Scotland will see a fair few scattered showers even as we progress into the evening. Now for its time, some showers will linger on, so we'll see some patchy cloud at times, but as we progress slowly in towards dawn, there'll be plenty of dry, clear skies. So temperatures once away are going to dip away fairly quickly. It could possibly be the coldest night of the year so far. So some patchy frost, maybe even some mist and fog by the morning. Many towns and cities in the mid to low single figures. So a chilly start, some mist and fog in places, though dry and bright for many areas. Light winds, though we'll soon see the winds pick up from the west as this next band of rain starts to push through, bringing in some outbreaks of rain, particularly across Northern Ireland and some western coasts. This rain heavy at times, and it could turn quite blustery too, but the best of the brightness across many eastern areas, still similar temperatures, so feeling chilly for this time of year, highs of around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hurricane Melissa is making its way from Jamaica to Cuba. We're going to bring you the very latest. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. On The Late Show Live tonight. Hurricane Melissa, the strongest storm in history, has wreaked havoc on Jamaica. It is now making its way to Cuba. The Category 4 hurricane has already claimed multiple lives and hundreds of Brits are trapped as the Jamaican government begs Donald Trump to help. Meanwhile, the American president has left Japan only moments ago and he's on his way to South Korea for a summit. We're going to bring you the latest as soon as he lands. We're looking at live pictures there of South Korea. He's also visited troops, of course, while he was in Japan with his signature dance moves. Could he be heading for a third term? We're going to be asking that question, and we're going to be looking at the stories from tomorrow's newspapers hours before they even hit the shelves. We are, of course, live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too. I am Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live, and welcome to the second hour. The breaks have been dropped, of course, so stay with me. I'm also going to be looking at some of your comments on the Your Say site. A lot of you very much enjoyed that package that we showed you of the little junior Ben Leo that you all recognise, a little chip off the old block. Ben's children were in that package and mine as well, so thank you very much for all your complimentary comments about that. Now, the main story this evening, Hurricane Melissa has now crossed Jamaica as the strongest storm to ever hit the Caribbean nation in modern history. The storm is expected to remain severe. It's now on its way to Cuba. It has, however, weakened to a Category 4 with wind speeds of 145 miles an hour. That is, of course, a little lower than the 185 miles per hour that they hit when they crossed Jamaica. Let's get the take of Dr. Jolyn Russell, Chair of Integrative Science and Professor at the University of Arizona. Very good evening to you, Dr. Russell. Thank you so much for joining us. I spoke to a meteorologist earlier on that was saying, you know, in that profession, this is a fascinating occurrence. Of course, thoughts and prayers with the people of Jamaica. What do we know at the moment about this storm, how bad it is? Will it start to lose strength and power now over the next few hours?
We don't expect it to lose much power and strength over the next couple of hours, but as it moves over Cuba, yes, we expect it to weaken significantly. And of course, on the north side of Cuba, there's significantly less of this extremely hot water, which allowed Melissa to grow so quickly into a Category 5 hurricane.
Just explain that to us as though we are weather idiots here in the studio, because no offence, fellas, but I think to some extent we are. So what does that mean? Why did that make the situation so much worse in Jamaica?
So hotter water makes for bigger hurricanes. The heat in the ocean drives the convection, which drives the strength and intensity of that hurricane, as well as the high winds and the extreme rainfall. So we did expect, the forecasts were quite good. They were very accurate, excellent amount of prep time available, but it's not just the sea surface temperature, it's that water right off of Jamaica was significantly warmer than normal and was quite deep, that very warm water layer.
One of the things I like about America is that you are quite open about some of the weather modification methods which the government have used over the years. You had a Senate hearing about them recently. We don't talk about that in the UK. It's a secret that rarely gets discussed. But is there any idea or theory, or in your mind any implication that the way that man has been tinkering around with solar radiation mitigation, cloud seeding, could that be playing a part in these more extreme events, do you think, Jolyn?
We do expect that the carbon dioxide modifications have had a significant impact, because we know it's increased that energy imbalance for the planet, and that the oceans have warmed just a tremendous amount. Up to 93% of the warming has been in the oceans, which then does drive these tropical storms. I don't see a role really for a more intrusive, specific interaction with geoengineering or other interference. This is just too monstrously large. And the predictions based on the basic weather pattern and the temperature of the ocean were excellent, dead on.
You know, we have these debates all the time about the fact that the planet is warming up. I think we can all agree that it is. The debate comes in whether that is man-made or whether that is just the natural evolution of our planet. But given that we know the planet is changing, the weather is warming up, do you think we should be doing more as human beings just to take steps to mitigate the impact on communities? And what could that look like in a country such as Jamaica?
We absolutely could be. And there's two parts. One is you can do preparation for severe weather, which we expect to increase with the size of these storms and the heat in the ocean. But there's other things which there's quite a lot of impacts, especially even away from hazardous weather, impacts on children, impacts on our little folk who can't regulate their body temperatures as well as adults can, and don't always even know that they are what they are experiencing is actually heat stroke or other dangers. So there's quite a lot of both education and mitigation we can do locally to help make sure we keep our young ones safe.
So at the moment, just to sum up, with Hurricane Melissa, we don't expect it to get worse as it approaches Cuba. If anything, it may get a little less potent, but still the people in Cuba need to be aware of what at this stage? Wind, rain, temperature
and
change.
Flooding. It's the flooding. We're really worried about high wind speeds, which could be hurling debris. Of course, at wind speeds over 100 miles an hour, you're picking very large pieces of debris up and throwing them around. If you've got your lawn furniture out, make sure you put it away because it'll come right through your window. If you've got plywood you can put up, do it. And then the second part, of course, is flooding. If you live in a low-lying area, now's the time to evacuate because we are expecting very heavy rainfall.
OK, thank you so much, Dr. Jolyn Russell there, the Chair of Integrative Science and Professor at the University of Arizona. Thank you so much for talking to me this evening. And she lives in Arizona, so she's going to know a little bit about heat. That is a very hot state. Stephen Kent and Democrat strategist Mally Smith are still with me this evening. Tell me about your wife's. You said she works in this area.
Yeah,
Stephen.
so she's an atmospheric scientist. So you know, I'm always going home and getting the weather updates when I'm looking to talk about politics. It's a great time. And you know, she sent me with a couple main data points on this storm that she's interested in, and I've got them in front of me. And one of the things that I'm looking at right now is, you know, the wind speeds for strongest landfalling hurricane on record. This is tying Hurricane Dorian 2019 and also the Labor Day hurricane of 1935. It's also tied for third strongest in pressure with the Labor Day hurricane of 1935. And so, like, for me, what that means, the only thing that jumps out to me as a politics guy is the year 1935. I see that and go, okay, so strong storms are not something that started yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? So when people like Mally are very eager to talk about man-made climate change and that this is some sort of, you know, modern phenomenon, it's not. This is tying a storm from almost 100 years ago. There are storms on this planet. Sometimes they're weak, sometimes they're strong. Are men, creating CO2 emissions and it's getting a little warmer? Sure. But I just don't like the attitude when we come to these things of, oh, there's something new going on here.
Yeah, Mally?
Well, I don't have a wife writing talking points for me on atmosphere. But what I will say is this, it's a shame that President Trump isn't here in the Situation Room, because in his first term, he had the genius idea of dropping a nuke on a hurricane to help dissipate it. So if he wasn't abroad, he could have potentially prevented.
He didn't actually do that, though.
He suggested it. But I'm glad he didn't nuclear bomb a hurricane. That is true. But if he was here, he could have potentially prevented this terrible hurricane that's hitting Jamaica.
We're seeing at the moment, apparently there are towns completely underwater in Jamaica this evening as we sit here. We know confirmed 7 people have lost their lives there. 25,000 tourists are apparently trapped. They're calling it the storm of the century, which is now making its way over to Cuba. Of course, internet is down. It seems like the obvious statement to make, but the internet is down in Jamaica. But did you guys also see this suggestion that Elon Musk has offered the Starlink system?
I'm sure he has.
Yeah. Which is a satellite way. We're using satellites in order to access the internet and Wi-Fi signal under these circumstances. So we're just trying to get that verified. I'm sure that is exactly the kind of thing
which I'm sure
he would do.
If they're doing that, that's a godsend, because you don't realize how much you rely your entire life on the internet until you don't have it.
Yeah, and these low Earth orbit satellites, of which SpaceX is a part, they're going to change the world for connectivity on all sorts of things, including war zones and also disaster areas when it comes to storms. Just on a technology point, like SpaceX is currently sort of one of the only games in town, but now Amazon is in this space too with Project Kuiper. Very exciting to see. So I think we're going to see more people not get left in the dark when the worst thing in the world happens to you, which is an act of God type storm like we're seeing here with this Hurricane Melissa.
Well, we know that there are about 500,000 Jamaicans were left without power today following this hurricane. The country's Minister of Local Government and Community has said that the number of those without power are up around 77% of Jamaica Public Service Company customers. Work is presently on the way, they said, to restore our service to give priorities to the critical facilities such as hospitals and water and pumping stations, weather permitting. 15,000 Jamaicans went to shelters, apparently. So I think there are public shelters as well as the shelters in individual houses. But it has now, as we say, the hurricane is making its way out to sea, heading towards Cuba. So it was a Category 3 storm, 125-mile-an-hour winds. Its center was around 160 miles southwest of Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, apparently, and it's moving north to northeast at 8 miles per hour. That seems very slow.
Picking up more warm water on the way.
The weather agency is saying it's still a powerful hurricane, threatens to bring up to 20 inches of rain and damaging winds to the eastern part of Cuba as it makes its way in that direction. Of course, under these circumstances, travel impossible, roads absolutely impassable, damage assessment only just beginning, of course, as people emerge from their properties to see what is left of the homes that they might have had a few hours earlier. Just extraordinary. It's kind of impossible for us to imagine in the UK to some degree. I mean, we've had more extreme weather events in the last couple of years. Particularly, I always think in the winter, because the grids are not dredged of the leaves, so you end up filling them with leaves, and then we get terrible storms. Right, we will bring you any more news on this as we get it, but let's move on now. So, should there be a generational tobacco ban in the UK. We're going to go to one of our newspaper stories now, because this week the Lords Committee are examining a proposed legislation that would make it illegal to sell tobacco to anyone born after 2008. Now, this, of course, came in under Rishi Sunak, if you remember, but it's been going through the process of being verified in Parliament. The Lords are proposing raising the age of sale to 21 years, completes the prohibition of tobacco products from 2040, criminalise the online sales of tobacco, and ban high-strength oral nicotine products and age verification technology for retailers. So let me talk to my panel about this. Stephen Kent and Mally Smith are still with me. So one of the big public health successes, actually, guys, in the UK has been tobacco. Over, I think it's probably 15 to 20 years, it became illegal to smoke indoors, particularly in workplaces. It then became illegal to smoke indoors in restaurants and pubs, etc. And now we're even having a move towards it being illegal to smoke outdoors in some areas. And of course, we've now got this. What do you make of it? Is it the right way? Is it the kind of thing the state should be doing?
They just can't take the win. Smoking has been in decline decade over decade all around the world. Malaysia tried this, a generational smoking ban. New Zealand tried this. Both ended up walking them back due to backlash. And here in the United States, we're seeing this start to pop up in different state houses, including Massachusetts and California. People are dropping smoking, but yet you're creating this dynamic where you could have two adults who were born in the same 12-month span, and one is allowed to smoke and the other is not, off an arbitrary date.
I'd like to bring in Paul Cox as well, if we can, on this debate. I don't know whether Paul is still there down in London, because of course it is a very British-focused story, but I'm interested in the American comparison here, Mally.
Yeah.
How old do you have to be to buy cigarettes in...
18, right?
18?
It depends on the state. 18 to 21. You know, some places have raised it to 21.
21.
So for me, you were saying it's a success in the UK, and in the US, you know, we have a lot of public health challenges, but one thing we've done well is we did a really good job of curbing smoking, right? Yeah. And I think we can build on those successes, but not build on them with the approach that was outlined by you all. Because I'm not a big fan of universal bans. I think it would be much better to make sure we're banning or we are really curtailing vaping companies from having advertisements that are directed to kids, having it have like maybe fruity flavors.
That's
that
the
are
problem, though. Fruity flavors, adults like fruity flavors. And even an advertisement using pink and green, advocates will say that that's targeting children because kids like those colors.
But tobacco companies did have a history of targeting children. Like, no, it's not ahistorical.
But it's just like, you know, my stepmom stopped a lifetime of smoking because she really loves strawberry vape. You know, like for me, I don't know if this gets anyone in trouble. Like, this is a nicotine toothpick that I keep with me.
Is
like,
that really?
It's just like it's a nicotine toothpick. It's a harm reduction tool. It keeps it keeps you from smoking, and it's like it's completely.
So hang on, okay. So if we can, I know you've had it in your mouth. You don't mind me picking it up. I don't care. I believe we should share germs.
That one's clean.
Makes you stronger. So this is literally, if you're listening on the radio, this is just a toothpick. I mean, it's a cocktail stick, but that has a same amount of tobacco in it.
So look, no tobacco. So tobacco.
Sorry,
nicotine.
nicotine.
Yeah, nicotine.
So it's got nicotine in that would be the equivalent. So are you a smoker?
I was, and I'm the type of person who I love smoking. I love smoking. A cigarette is a great time, and I've never stopped wanting to smoke, but I haven't really picked up a cigarette in about 10 years.
Smells great.
But, you know, for me, it's partially oral fixation, right? I want to have something in my hand. So for me, I like having the toothpick. It's a great solution, and it's like an ounce of the nicotine, you know, for the user. Harm reduction actually works, and Sweden has implemented this fantastically. There's hardly any smoking in Sweden, and they never banned cigarettes. They just promoted nicotine products as an alternative.
Do you know what? Let's bring in Paul, because I do love this topic, and I have teenage girls, you have a teenage girl, Paul has teenage girls. Now, we will all know, or Paul and I will know, I don't know about you, Stephen, here, but vaping is the drug of choice for teenagers. I mean, I hear it from my kids all the time, and you have to go to any sort of music event with teenagers in the UK, and they are almost all of them are vaping. It is so depressing. We have literally swapped one addiction for another, and I think, Paul, without any real knowledge of the long-term harms.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting, isn't it? My daughter's never tried a cigarette. Her friends have never tried a cigarette.
Yeah.
Many of her friends, she's 16, she's doing her A-levels, going on 17, and she's tried vape. She's not a vapor. I encourage her to be honest with me if I can. I try not to make it. I try not to go in too hard if she talks to me about these things, because I don't want her to think. You know, I want to treat her with respect, and I want her to feel like she can talk to me. But what is becoming apparent is that kids of her age, boys and girls of her age, have taken to vapes without even entertaining the idea of cigarettes. Vapes is where they've started. And probably, and you know, I hate to prove Mally right in any way, shape or form, but it's probably because... Mally, sorry, you know, I'm with Steve on everything. Steve just made smoking sound really cool a minute ago, by the way. I love smoking. But Steve, that was almost like an advert from the 50s for smoking. It was brilliant. But it's probably the flavour... It's probably the flavours of these vapes that do encourage the kids. And they're all on them now. You know, you see, talking to... I nearly said my daughter's name, and it's the last thing you want to do on national TV. But talking to her previously... Now I just sound like it's a professional relationship with her. It's not. I love my daughter to bits. But what I mean is... talking to her previously, it feels to me like the kids were smoking vapes, or whatever you do with a vape, toke a vape, from about 12, 13 years onwards.
Yeah.
And one thing, Paul, that concerns me about vaping is I think probably the evidence that we'll see over the long term is vaping is better than smoking. But I do think it is being seen as completely harmless. And in the United States, with the legalization we've been seeing of marijuana in different states, we've seen that this whole claim that marijuana is completely harmless, that there are no potential side effects to heavily smoking pot, we've seen that to really not be the case. A, because some of those studies didn't look at what's the effect of people smoking pot at a very young age, and it seems like there's a difference there. People who smoke pot at a very young age have worse effects. And then second, the pot historically that people smoked, you know, when they were years ago, was not as strong as what kids are smoking now, because with commercialization, it's just become a stronger product.
I think that's well put. You know, the only thing that people should breathe is oxygen. That is the only thing that is good for you to take in. But absent that, right, people are going to make choices, and we want them to be able to make the widest range of possible safe choices. And we want to have options out there for people to stop smoking cigarettes, which are incredibly harmful to your health. But even the Lancet medical journal released a report this week on young people around the world. Mortality is increasing. More young people are dying, and vaping doesn't crack the top 5 reasons for it. It's everything else. It's depression, it's suicidality, communicable diseases. So vaping is downstream. Smoking is downstream of other problems that people tend to have. And we really need to focus on, as military folks would say, the alligator closest to the boat, which is things like depression and suicidality.
Paul, I don't know if you know this, but the home state that Stephen and I are from, North Carolina, is known for growing tobacco. The rivalry between the two main schools, it's called Tobacco Road. So I think we're going to have to dig into Stephen here and see if he doesn't have some secret connections to Philip Morris or Marlboro.
I have to say, I mean, I'm fascinated by Stephen's little toothpick here, Paul. I didn't know this was a thing, because what's become really fashionable in London now is this chewing tobacco stuff that you put in the side of your mouth thing.
Like it's 1748.
That's new.
That's
here.
new?
Yeah.
All right, we cowboys were spitting chewing tobacco 150 years ago.
Yeah, along with snuff, Paul.
But it is
smelling salts and chewing tobacco.
Do we actually know these toothpicks exist? Or has Stephen invented them today, announced them on national TV, and tomorrow they'll be the biggest hit amongst... There'll be kids at high school, 16-year-old kids, with toothpicks hanging out. Big I Love Steve shirts on.
Yes.
Steve, I can see it now. I can see it now, my friend.
The Kent epidemic, yeah.
But you see, there are more and more people online talking about the health health benefits of nicotine, but without the tobacco. Are you that school of thought, Stephen Kent?
Tucker
Carlson's
yeah,
talking
yeah. Tucker
about
Carlson
it. Lots
loves
of the
it.
influencers are talking about
I mean, so this is where, where y'all are now talking about chewing tobacco, which is very outdated in the U.S. We now have nicotine pouches that you pop into your mouth underneath your tongue or
That's
your
probably
cheek.
what I meant.
I hope so, because much more.
No, Bev's right.
So
they do.
That's become like a productivity thing. So
Yeah.
people who are like high achievers are of the belief that nicotine fuels them to success. I don't have strong opinions about that, but there's no doubt it sharpens you a bit.
Well, do you know what probably has better health effects? Going on a walk, sleeping 8 hours a day, working out. I mean, I don't know. I think there's some tried and true things that we don't have to get to whether nicotine helps or not.
Yeah, I think
doesn't sound as cool as what Steve said earlier, though, does it? I mean, going for a walk.
I love a good cigarette.
It doesn't sound very cool. I've been waiting all night, and I promise you, viewers, I'm doing my best to find you pictures of men in high heels running through the streets of Washington, D.C. and face planting tonight, because there has been a race going on right outside these doors tonight, which, Mally, you haven't actually competed in, but you have watched.
I've watched. I have not competed in, but it's called the High Heel Race, and it's kind of a local event that the LGBTQ community does on a street that has a lot of gay bars and a bunch of very fit, some not fit, but some very fit guys. Right? It's not on U Street, but they get in heels and they run. A lot of them have had a few drinks, and some of them look incredibly graceful, and others just face plant after falling, running in their high heels. So hopefully we get some photos and videos of that for
hopefully it knocks some sense into them once they take the fall.
Yeah, and with Donald Trump out of the city, that's the kind of thing that I'm free to cover tonight, which is quite exciting. I promise you, viewers, I will try and get you some footage of that. Still to come as well on the Late Show Live this evening, a more serious story. Explosions have been reported in Gaza. Israel is accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire. They are claiming that militants fired on their troops and handed over a coffin without the hostages' remains that they were expecting. We will bring you the latest on that as our hearts sink on the idea that the ceasefire may already be over. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. So as I've just been telling you, Israel has launched strikes on Gaza after accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire. They're claiming that militants fired on their troops after handing over a coffin without the hostages' remains that they were expecting. Hamas has hit back, accusing Israel of fabricating false pretexts to justify new attacks, and says that it's being blocked from recovering the 13 remaining hostages. America is insisting that the truce is still intact. Vice President J.D. Vance has said the ceasefire is holding, despite what he called little skirmishes here and there. But has peace in the Middle East already collapsed? Let's hope not. Paul Cox, Mally and Stephen still with me here to discuss this. I hate to say it, Paul, but there was a terrible inevitability about the fact that we may not have seen the end of that peace, whether we may not have seen the end of the conflict, in the Middle East, and that peace was always incredibly precarious. I don't know about you, but I'm waiting to hear the response from President Trump, and we wonder whether, when he arrives in South Korea any minute now, whether he will comment on this, because ultimately he's the only guy that's going to be able to fix this.
That's very true, and I think it's important to say at this point, even with the fact that the ceasefire between what is essentially Israel and Hamas, let's face it, seems to have been broken, Donald Trump managing to broker a deal that freed the hostages, or the majority of the hostages, I hasten to add, is still a huge achievement. And maybe the rest of the world, maybe the world now is looking at Donald Trump to see what he can do next. Because like you say, Bev, he's probably the only person in the world that can do anything here. I think, unfortunately, it was inevitable, particularly with Hamas involved, that they weren't going to stick to the conditions of this ceasefire. And of course, in doing so, someone like Netanyahu is not going to take that lightly. He said right from the very beginning, if they were to break the ceasefire conditions and if they were to do it in any drastic way, which I'm not too sure of the detail here, but I think what we're finding out here is that Netanyahu's not going to be messed with, and the only way this peace can reign in the Middle East, I think, is if Hamas are removed entirely, Bev.
Trump is going to be so impatient with this situation, Stephen. It was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was it when Israel started bombing Iran and he had a microphone put underneath him and he said they don't know what the F they are doing? Was it that incident? It was part of this Middle East when he was clearly so furious that he couldn't get these people with these entrenched conflicts over decades to just do as he was asking them to do.
Yeah, you know, we sit from a position of incredible privilege on the other side of the Atlantic when talking about these issues. We are frustrated that these two sides won't fight, but, you know, Paul already mentioned it, you know, the incalcitrance of Hamas is not something that you can just wave a magic wand and have go away. They are propped up by forces abroad, including Qatar and Turkey, and you have to not only cut off their funding, you have to cut off their many, many heads. And there are going to be members of Hamas who the fight is not over. They don't care what politicians, particularly American politicians, have to say about their holy war. They're going to fight it until it's done. And like Donald Trump said, he might end it for them. And that might end up being what happens here.
Yeah, absolutely. Mali, how about you? What will be going through Donald Trump's mind, do you think, when he's hearing about these skirmishes, as J.D. Vance calls them?
I think it's going to be just him trying to exert his will to keep people at the bargaining table and to keep this moving forward. I think one of the best things he did initially was accept Hamas's qualified yes, even though their qualified yes essentially went against a few things in his plan, but accepting the qualified yes was able to get the hostages released. I think the issue you have is you have folks in Hamas who, as Stephen said, see this as a holy war. And then you also have people in Netanyahu's government who have publicly stated, who are in his governing government, have publicly stated that they would like to control the entire region, and basically, if it was politically possible, they would kill or exile every Palestinian. And that is a coalition that is part of Netanyahu's government, and if he loses their support, he could, lose his power. Yeah. So I think it's going to be keeping two sides that do not want to talk basically together. And one thing I do think, though, with President Trump, he should have touted the deal that he got, but I do think him declaring peace in the Middle East could look like a George W. Bush mission accomplished on the Navy boat. And that could be pretty devastating politically.
OK, well, we'll let you know if we hear any developments on that, GB News viewers and listeners, because obviously it is a precarious situation. Hopefully, Vice President J.D. Vance is right that these are just skirmishes, but it certainly doesn't look quite like that. Let's move to a story on the front page of The Sun now, because I know this is of interest to our panel. And Paul Cox hopefully is still there. And this is, Paul, Save Our Bets, a budget tax grab which is set to hit punters and sports, with Rachel Reeves saying that she's going to crack down on fun. What do we know about this story?
Look, I'm in a sort of precarious position here. I don't really want to defend betting. I'm not a gambler myself. It's not that I haven't placed a bet. I've placed the occasional casual bet on something like the National, the Grand National here, which is a horse race, one of our biggest horse races of the year. But I'm not someone who bets. And of course, like many men, I know someone who's been involved with a betting addiction, a gambling addiction, and I see the devastation it causes. However, if we look at this purely from a political perspective, I believe in small governments, therefore I believe in free will, and if you want to take your money and gamble it, that is your choice. I advise you not to, but that is your choice. And it's a surefire way to attack working class people, because whether we like it or not, the large majority of people that will sit in the bookies all day long are likely to be working class people. They're likely to be the sort of people that are hoping to win money to pay their bills or whatever it is to feed their addiction, unfortunately. So I think this is not going to play particularly particularly well. However, it's also not going to be a huge issue because it's very difficult, I think, to defend betting as a pastime because of the damage it can cause. But like I say, I believe in much smaller government than we got now and people's free will.
Yeah. Mali, what do you think? Just forgive me if this is terribly insulting, but you don't strike me as a betting man.
Well, I had a great run on the NBA playoffs where I hit a lot of parlays, and then I took what I wanted, put it on a bet on the NBA Finals, and then lost.
You naughty boy!
Did you? Oh no! And then you lost it.
And then I lost it. It was going, see, that's the thing with gambling. It was going so well until it wasn't. But you know, Paul, what you mentioned there is pretty interesting because we have a similar dynamic in the U.S. where President Trump passed his tax cut for millionaires and billionaires, and one of the ways he paid for that is he increased taxes on gambling and sports betting. And as you said, there's a lot of folks who might be unhappy about that, but it's also low-hanging fruit because it's easy to say, hey, this is something morally and economically maybe we shouldn't encourage. So it could politically, though, have some ramifications because the folks who really like to sports bet are young men, but I don't know if they're going to be that in the weeds to see.
Yeah,
here's
these
a tax
taxes
that made it a little bit worse.
Taxes on the top of different betting behaviors has not been shown, particularly in most U.S. states, to actually curb behavior, and it also comes up short on expectations for revenue for governments. These aren't actually very good deterrent tools if that's what you're actually trying to do. At the end of the day, this is kind of fun police 101. They just want to go after the things that they wish people wouldn't do, make a tax on it, do things like generational bans like we were just discussing. Just let people do their thing. Again, this is something that a lot of working class people enjoy doing.
Stephen, are you sponsored by a casino today? You got the betting, you got the tobacco.
I'm the king of ice.
He's like the king of sin
of ice
over here. Last Tuesday you were talking about Bible sales, and this Tuesday you're talking about casinos. I can't keep up with you.
Free will is an important thing, and I'm going to make this theology now since you took the shot, Mally. Part of being free, part of being a human being is the ability to choose which way you're going to go. That is part of the way that God made the world to be. I find gambling to be problematic in the sense that I don't do it because I think I would like it very much. That's why I have never placed a bet in my life, because I'm protecting myself from that.
Yeah.
And I think that people have to be free to make these decisions for themselves, or there's no virtue in not doing it. There is no virtue in abstaining from gambling if it wasn't your choice to do so.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in a nanny-state approach to running society.
Well, talking of running and people who are free to choose to do what they want, I am delighted to say that the huge team we have working on this show in London have managed to find some images of the people here in Washington, D.C. this evening. This is DC's 38th annual high heel race. The crowd do not look terribly impressed. If you're listening on the radio, this is a man in a dress and a huge wig wearing high heels. He's not running though, he's more like performing.
It's a drag show.
Is this normal?
Isn't a race.
This isn't a race.
So they do race, but there's also drag show performances.
Okay. And they've managed to paint the barriers at the side of the road that you see a lot in DC because there's often a lot of security cordons. They've got them in the pride colours. This race has been going on for apparently nearly 40 years. It's a community tradition. Attendees cheer on the costumed runners as they sprint down 17th Street Northwest. So there's a man in high heels and a green cape sprinting.
And Bev, that's a prominent gay bar in the city, JR's.
No way. I would never have guessed.
Now, was drag always a popular component of these events, or is that something that has sort of risen in recent years as drag has become extra controversial?
No, it's always been a part, is my understanding, but we are also testing my knowledge on the high heel race. I'm not a historian of this event.
Can I just ask, are there normally more people in this race than we're seeing right now? Because it's a completely empty
There's
street.
usually a bunch of men running.
Where are the men in their high heels?
Where are the running men?
I don't know.
We need that.
That team of thousands back in London have tempted tempted me. They've teased me with this footage. They're trying. They're telling me they're trying very hard. So presumably this was the warm-up act. This is like the person at the front of the marathon, maybe the pace setter.
How inspiring. You know, what will rally the troops to run like that performance? Yeah, love it.
So off they go. She goes in their feather bowery skirty thing and their big high heels.
I want to jump in on that though. Like,
go on.
Like the he-she part. Like, that's the thing about drag. This is the thing that's annoyed me so much about the conversation we've been having in this country about drag queens for the past 10 years, it seems. I am old enough to remember when we understood drag to be a thing that men are doing, and they are not women. They are pretending to be women for an evening, and it's a form of entertainment.
Well, but drag is different than being trans.
I know, exactly, but they have blurred the two things in the discourse. Both sides have done this. It used to just be like, hey, this is performance art. It's fine. This guy could be a straight teacher who has 2 kids. It's a thing he does at night. You know, it's a weird thing.
We got some Halloween costumes.
It's very true. That's such a good point, actually. There are rules around this in the UK. You might be interested to know that Ofcom regulations
about drag shows?
Dictate no, but they dictate that when we are talking about or to a trans person, that we have to use their preferred pronoun.
But a drag queen isn't a statement on gender. You know,
but again, that would be different. If they're talking to a trans person, they are identifying as that gender for their life. Drag is a performance.
And that was going to be a performance, but unfortunately we didn't get much of the people face planting in the high heels, which is what I was hoping for. But look, we've got 20 minutes left of the show. I'm not going to give up on this. I will try and find you that footage. But let's move on to another story now. This is Secretary of War, used to be called the Defence Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has said that the single dumbest phrase in military history is that diversity is our strength. I'm guessing he wouldn't be watching that race, but he did say this.
Previous administration, or iterations of administrations, there was a phrase, it's the dumbest phrase in military history. And that phrase is, our diversity is our strength. But I don't look at you and see who you are based on the color of your skin. I look at you as a fellow American who bleeds red.
There are some people that will find that so refreshing, and I am one of them, but there are other people, Mali, who will still find that incredibly distressing. Where do you sit on that?
Well, there have been reports like from the Rand group that show that basically army units that are more diverse are more effective. I'm not for lowering standards, but I am for the idea that we should have an armed forces that look like the United States, that look like America. But part of that, I would say, isn't a race or sex issue. I think part of that would be making sure that we have a military that also has soldiers that come from wealthy backgrounds. The U.S. military is an all-volunteer force, which is great, but what you have is a lot of lower income folks join because it's one of their best economic options. So I see DEI in a slightly different way there.
No, I like that. I'm often saying, Paul, that DEI should be as much about, particularly in the UK, so I'm interested to say it should be here, which should be about social class. It should be about social mobility. It should be about opportunity. Opportunity for all, but not necessarily the same outcome for all. And our army is very similar, our forces, in that the troops often are working class boys who haven't had the opportunities, but you go to the upper ranks of the army and they are the public school boys. Those are the officers who have had privilege. Paul.
Absolutely. It is about diversity of outcome, not diversity of opportunity. Diversity is our strength. It's an oxymoron. It's not true to say that. Meritocracy is our strength. You know, it depends on what job you're doing. You want literally the survival of the very fittest in your military. I mean, I love the Secretary of War, by the way. That is the most American thing I have heard ever. The Secretary of War. And she should be proud, Stephen Malley. Even you, Malley, should be proud. It's a wonderful thing. But it's a wonderful thing. I sound like Trump now. I don't know what's happening. But
it's such a wonderful thing. Really beautiful.
Absolutely. But it really isn't true to say that diversity is our strength. And with regards to working class boys being on the front lines versus not working class boys being in the officer ranks, I run a comedy show in the Army headquarters for the officers' mess twice a year, and it's captains and above, which is very, very high up in terms of the audience, and they are not diverse at all. They all came from 2 schools, went to 2 universities, and speak very, very well. There's not much social mobility at the very top levels of the military in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same in the US as well.
Yeah, I've always been sympathetic. I think maybe it's just as a millennial who grew up in the 90s to the idea of, diversity is our strength. It was on every poster in every school. But, as you get older, I think you start to see a little bit more of the complex truth, which is that diversity is a complication. Difference makes things harder. But the point is that it is a complication worth taking on. The point of living in a Western country and living in the United States is that we have so many different people here, but we have to be united behind one single idea and vision of the good and bring all of those pieces together. It's a huge challenge and it's a worthy one, but the idea that diversity is inherently a strength and you have people running around and talking about their gender identities and their skin color, that doesn't help. We need to know what you're here for and what you stand for.
Exactly. It's got very little to do with any of those things. If we discovered by this experiment, by the way, that black trans men were the best in the military by a million miles, then get as many black trans men in the military as you possibly can. That would be the meritocracy. My point is that don't just fill it full of one of everything just to prove that you are diverse. That proves nothing. And diversity itself describes weakening things. You are diversifying whatever it is. You want to build the strength, particularly in the military. And, from this side of the water to you, we are looking at you to have the strongest military in the world. Because if you don't, who is going to save us?
Well, we do have the strongest military in the world. And I can say one thing, too, on diversity being our strength. Look, I have a friend of mine who is trans, who served our country for close to 15 years and has been forced out of the military because of President Trump's ban on trans folks serving in the military. This is a person who served our country for years and was doing it successfully. And if we want to have a country that's strong, we need to make sure those who want to continue to serve can. And one thing, Bev, I got to add, and it kills me, is that all this talk about DEI lowering standards. Well, you have the Trump administration looking to potentially lower standards for ICE recruits because ICE recruits can't pass this simple physical test. Many ICE recruits are failing to do 34 sit-ups and 15 push-ups. There was an article in The Atlantic talking about how this is worse than Antifa in regards to ICE hitting their recruitment goals. So when it comes to Trump's personal military arm, his ICE agents, he is lowering standards. As long as you are pledging allegiance to Trump and not America, you're allowed to join ICE even if you can't do 15 push-ups.
And of course, for anybody that doesn't know, that is the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. These are the people who knock down doors and take illegal migrants out of their houses.
And sometimes U.S. citizens too.
And that's very true. Right, moving on, gentlemen, thank you so much. Press Secretary, I'm not going to challenge you to do 15 press-ups, at least not tonight. We might save that for another day. But Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, this is brilliant. She's hit back at Tim Walz. Now, he's a Minnesota governor. He's a Democrat. And he has accused the White House. He said the White House renovations are taking priority. Here we go. Have a look at this.
They are choosing not to fund these programs. They are choosing to prioritize. And when the White House press secretary said the top priority is the ballroom, we could not disagree more.
So that's about the shutdown and where taxpayers' money is being spent. And he's saying that actually they need to bring the shutdown to a close so that the services here in America can start up again. And Caroline Leavitt responded with this. It's a tweet, and she just said, "Stop lying, Tampon Tim." Now, why does she call him Tampon Tim? Do you know?
That is in regards to Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, and some of their transgender accommodations, which he has advocated for.
Period products in men's bathrooms.
Products in men's bathroom. It's the exact thing that, like, when Mark Zuckerberg decided to be red-pilled, went on Joe Rogan and said, you know, the first thing we're doing now is we're getting all the women's sanitary products out of the men's bathroom at Meta. So good for them, I guess.
Is that appropriate, Mally, for the press secretary to be responding like that and calling a tampon Tim?
I mean, at this point, I think our politics has gotten pretty crass that kind of from all sides we're saying pretty ridiculous things, but, you know.
Yeah, you know, like she could put out a dissertation on Twitter to, like, take him down and offer a rebuke, or she could just do name calling so that everybody laughs at this guy who lost his vice presidential race miserably. You know, I have mixed feelings about it. I would love an era of civility, but we also need an era where we don't let people like Walz get taken too seriously.
Yeah, but Paul, these nicknames are so brilliant in politics. We have, of course, the famous one for us is Rachel Reeves. She was called Rachel from Accounts. I don't remember who started that first. Do you remember who started that? I'm a bit uncomfortable with that because I think it is quite misogynistic. Not misogynistic, that's not right. But I think it is a bit sexist. I don't think you would maybe label a man who's a...
Why is Account
Bev
sexist?
is going woke. She's going woke.
It's not that. I think I was never comfortable with that. I felt like it was a lot of men laughing at a woman in a very strong position. Well, she's not in a strong position. She's terrible at a job. But I thought that the nickname itself would not be applied equivocably to a man.
No, that's a good point. And I've always found slightly squeamish about using the term as well. I've certainly never used it on a show like this. It comes, Stephen, by the way, to answer your question, it's not having a go at people that are accountants. You know, we all need accountants, especially ones that know how to avoid tax. But what I would say, what they were saying, is I think it emanated from Reform somewhere, is that Rachel Reeves has on her CV all sorts of inflated jobs that she had in the past to make out that she is qualified to do her job as Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is essentially the country's accountant in the UK, and they're sort of playing that down, saying she never really had those roles. She was just Rachel from Accounts. She wasn't the head of this. She barely did anything for the Bank of England. It is, look, I'm with Stephen on this, and I'd rather there was civility, but it's so effective, and because it's so effective, a 4 or 5 word tweet has basically shut down 1,000 words from Tim Walz. Just like that, and it's gone. What he said doesn't matter anymore, and it's been undermined, and everybody moves on, and it leaves us free to say things like he's a failed running mate for Kamala Harris. So it is effective until it becomes ineffective.
As effective as you guys think it is. I don't know if it's as effective as you guys think it is. I mean, I get it. We're like political. It's like a knife fight. We're saying nicknames, but for folks who aren't in on the joke and who aren't already conservative, I don't think it's actually that effective. But I mean, in the world of Twitter, I think just having a good response is probably what is driving it.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at another story now. This is the House Oversight Committee. They've released a scathing report here in America on former American President Joe Biden's auto pen use. Now, President Trump ordered this investigation. We're looking at the picture here that he's put these portraits on it's the walkway beside what was the Rose Garden. They've got a beautiful kind of patio area now where they host events. And they've got pictures of all the presidents. And instead of a picture of Joe Biden, Donald Trump has hilariously put up a picture of the auto pen with Biden's signature. Now, this is a robotic writing instrument, and it was used to sign a number of pardons. And Trump is now saying that those pardons are void because it was the auto pen. Are they, Stephen?
Yeah, so the House Committee on Oversight, they're deeming that the pardons that were auto pen signed in the last months of the Biden administration, they're calling them void. I'm not sure if there's actually any bite to their bark, but their role in the House of Representatives is to provide an opinion on this issue after interrogating or interviewing a bunch of people within the administration. You know, I think that this is something that is quite serious and should be taken up by the president, but it's not clear to me who gets to make those auto pen signatures void. What they want to see is that unless Biden administration officials and alumni can provide written documentation showing that Biden consented to these pardons, that they should be tossed out. So I guess some people are be going back to jail.
Yeah, well, maybe, and some people should be going to jail anyway. I mean, people like Fauci are on that pardon list, aren't they? I think that he signed. So let's see.
Yeah, that would be
happens.
Before the auto pen, though.
Would you think?
Yeah, that would be quite before the auto pen. What happened is that a lot of his staffers provided lists of people that they wanted to pardon, and it got run through the auto pen machine.
Can we just, before we go, I just want to look at a load of monkeys escaping from a truck in Mississippi. This was a truck that flipped, and it released several large, what's called aggressive monkeys. We're looking at them on the roof here. Is this normal in America, boys? Is this the kind of thing I have to be worried about?
Those are just little sweeties.
No.
You know, that's the pet that I want to have.
They have like hepatitis though, Stephen.
Yeah, apparently. Well, what I loved about the reporting of the story is they have...
How dare you say that, Mally, about my dream pet? Why would you do that?
It said this is a terrible story because they have hepatitis and COVID.
COVID.
I'll take the COVID first, though, if we have to pick.
I'll just mask up, it's fine.
Let me tell you, if that aggressive monkey came through my front room window, the last thing I would be worried about was COVID.
But you know what we need to do? We need to take you to a cheap roadside American zoo, like the one that was in Tiger King. That could be a really good American experience for you.
Well, I wanted to go to the zoo here in DC, but because of this ridiculous shutdown...
No, that's a real zoo.
The Democrats shut down.
Zoo.
Because of the Democrats shutdown, there is no zoo that we can't actually go and visit. But that seems like a decent night. We didn't get you pictures of men in high heels falling on their faces, but I'm sure you can find them online. We will go on to gbnews.com. Go on, I'm sure we'll put some up there. Thank you so much for spending your late night with me here on GB News. I also want to thank, of course, Stephen Kent and Mally Smith and Paul Cox over there in the UK. I will be back here tomorrow night, midnight in the UK, 8 p.m. here Eastern. See you then.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We will see some spells of rain today, particularly across parts of the southeast. A mix of sunshine and showers elsewhere. And where we see persistent outbreaks of rain, it is going to be feeling on the chilly side. So plenty of rain across parts of the south and southeast. This could be heavy at times for Sussex and Kent. Also a fair few showers. These possibly merging into longer spells of rain at times across the northwest. This too could be heavy, possibly bringing some hail and thunder, though this should be mostly isolated. Northern areas of Wales, northern and central parts of England, it should be mostly dry and bright by the afternoon. We may even see some sunshine, but it is going to be feeling chilly. Temperatures just below average in some areas, and where we see the cloud and rain linger on, particularly across southeastern areas, that's where it's going to feel chilly still. But across central areas, there could be some clear skies, so temperatures dipping away as soon as the sun goes down. Still plenty of showers across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, through into the Scottish borders as well. These could still be heavy, and also northern areas of Scotland will see a fair few scattered showers even as we progress into the evening. Now for its time, some showers will linger on, so we'll see some patchy cloud at times, but as we progress slowly in towards dawn, there'll be plenty of dry, clear skies. So temperatures once away are going to dip away fairly quickly. It could possibly be the coldest night of the year so far. So some patchy frost, maybe even some mist and fog by the morning. Many towns and cities in the mid to low single figures. So a chilly start, some mist and fog in places, though dry and bright for many areas. Light winds, though we'll soon see the winds pick up from the west as this next band of rain starts to